So Mr. Green Tidal Wave himself, Dan Ives, appearing on CNBC on a segment strangely titled How to Play Tech in 2024. Almost as if CNBC think that the stock market is just a big fun game. Anyway, let's see what Dan has to say.
Our next guest, he was right about the big rally. Dan Ives, Wedbush Securities Analyst. I would guess by the end of this year, you'll be atop the leaderboard of CNBC appearances, Dan. Although I'm willing to take an over-under on that. And you know what? I'm going to love every one of them. So happy New Year.
And it's great to be here.
Good to see you. You had a good call on tech overall. You continue to be quite bullish. Let's start with Tesla, though. Just give me your take on those numbers. You know, Phil just mentioned 2.3 million. Are you going to be towards the high end in terms of what you expect them to deliver this year?
Yeah, I think whisper expectations could be higher. Look, this was a strong result. You look what's happening in China. There were fears there, and it was actually a source of strength. We think a record quarter in China. So I do think this is an important, sign that demand's actually strengthening for Tesla. It continues to be maybe EV demand soften, but not Tesla demand. And that's the important thing going into 24.
Yeah.
So let's be really clear. As I've said and been saying and remain consistently saying every fucking day, demand for compelling, well-priced electric vehicles, quasi-infinite. The entire world will be switching. A decade from now, no more ICE vehicles will be produced, except extremely low volume, car enthusiast production, just for those people who really want to smell a bit of gasoline and feel the surge of shifting manually through the gears. The ICE vehicle will be nothing more than a novelty. No volume producers will be making these things because no consumers will be buying them. Despite false claims to the contrary, there are no concerns around demand for electric vehicles. It's just that there's this company called Tesla who are currently dictating terms for the entire industry. Tesla is the bar by which other companies are measured, other products are measured. If you can't compete on price, performance, features and functionality, good luck selling your electric vehicle in the same market in which Tesla sells theirs. So this is where the confusion comes in. If you make an excellent, well-priced electric vehicle, it will sell. If you make a shite and or poorly priced electric vehicle, you will struggle. So as Dan rightly points out, there are no concerns regarding demand for Tesla. And in fact, if we're being clear, there are no concerns regarding demand for compelling, well-priced electric vehicles produced by Tesla or anyone else. The problem is, most companies on earth today producing electric vehicles are either producing polished turds or they can't afford to sell them at competitive prices.
Where is that line? Why is that the case then? And in particular in China, where BYD is such a strong competitor, are they going to be able to maintain their market share?
Yeah, BYD has done a phenomenal job, but I do think if you look in the driver's seat, it's Tesla and BYD. Gained some net share from NIO and others. And in China, especially if you look at the last few quarters, there were fears that this price war was going to continue. It actually hasn't. See, now, to Phil's point, you're seeing price stabilization. That's very important because now the Goldilocks scenario, margins upticking, demand upticking, that's where, in our opinion, you see $1 trillion market cap for Tesla over the next year, despite many of the haters continuing to hate.
So to Dan's $1 trillion market cap prediction, not exactly a bold call there. Of course, we don't know what's going to happen to Tesla stonk, but we're not far off $1 trillion market cap as I record this. And Dan most certainly is right. The haters continue to hate. Apparently, Tesla's full year 2023 delivery numbers are an absolute disaster. It's a busted growth story. It's over and so on. Okay. Now, over to Doomberg.
Storyline for you, Dan. You know, you meet the stated 1.8 million target, but I remember a year ago, the first earnings call of the year in January 2023, Musk touting, well, we could do 2 million maybe. So what does the scorecard show all told?
Hey, Ed and Carolyn, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I think the story of 2023 was that we were pulling back from a period of EV euphoria. And if we just contrast what's going on now versus where we were 2 years ago, where the market was fully supply constrained and demand was not at all a concern, that's not the case now. Now we have questions about demand.
Oh, God damn it. Here we go. Questions about demand. As we've discussed in this very video moments ago, there are no questions around demand. There are questions around the ability for companies to produce things that aren't polished turds and or overpriced. You make a compelling, well-priced electric vehicle, it will sell. Final data is yet to come in, but in 2023, approximately 10% of all vehicles sold on planet Earth were fully electric. About 10 years from now, my guess is that 100% approximately of all vehicles sold on the planet will be electric. That's a 10 times increase between now and then, driven predominantly by declining costs, improving technology. Still find it baffling that there's any discussion around concerns about demand. Why is it that we don't hear these analysts, and maybe we'll hear this on the segment, we'll get back to what he's got to say soon, but why don't we hear these analysts saying there are no concerns around demand? There are concerns about companies being able to produce products consumers want. That's a different thing. Do you understand this? It's an important distinction. If there are companies out there producing overpriced pieces of shit and they fail to sell their overpriced pieces of shit, that doesn't indicate that there's a lack of demand for the underlying thing that they're producing. It just means that they're producing a pile of shit and or they're selling it for too much. Different story. When will the narrative change? Is it going to wait until electric vehicles are 20% of all new vehicles sold? Does it need to be 35%, 50, 70%? Like, where does the narrative finally change to we're going 100% electric as fast as possible, provided companies can make compelling products and sell them at reasonable prices, they'll sell everything they make. I mean, again, Tesla increased their year-over-year deliveries by around 500,000 vehicles from 22 to 23. And in 2020 alone, for the full year, they delivered about 500,000 vehicles. So they've gone from 500,000 in a full year in 2020 to nearly 2 million in 2023. And they will most certainly produce and deliver more vehicles in 2024 than they did 2023.
Even so much to the point that Tesla acknowledged on the last earnings call that there were some macro concerns and it would not be producing as much as it could in its Austin and Berlin facilities simply because of some of these macro questions. And so,
did we actually hear this? I'm not sure we did. Please, somebody fact check. Last I recall, Tesla did point out they were going to slow up on the Giga Mexico factory. Why? Because of uncertainty around the macro environment. And it's a multi-billion dollar investment. Instead, where they previously intended on producing Tesla's next-gen vehicle in Mexico, they have instead decided, we'll produce this in Austin first because A, we've got the space, and B, we still need to figure out the production systems here in Austin first anyway, before Mexico. So Tesla may have slowed down the production of a factory, as in building the factory and ramping it up, but not the production of the next-gen vehicle. Just the location this is first going to ramp is no longer Mexico. They did say that. Did I miss something? Was I high? Was I sleep deprived? Did Tesla say they were slowing up or scaling back some of their potential capacity and or expansion in Austin and Berlin on the last earnings call? Did I miss that? Weird.
So the story going forward is, how do we deal with this period of some demand uncertainty within the EV market?
God, dude, this is killing me, man. It's going to be a very painful video. So let's make a few predictions here. 1, Tesla will sell every vehicle they produce this year. 2, they will use pricing as a lever, up or down, to continue to sell through every vehicle they produce. Tesla will also try to ramp up their next-gen vehicle as soon as possible, starting in Austin, get the production systems down pat, then be full speed ahead with the Mexico factory once they've nailed the production systems for the next-gen vehicle. And importantly, once the economic uncertainty dissipates. What's going on with interest rates right now? Through the fucking roof. Absolutely absurd, but it seems pretty likely, and take this with a Mount Everest, in fact, an Olympus Mons-sized grain of salt, because I'm the same guy right now about to make predictions about interest rates in 24, who not in a million years would have predicted what happened in the preceding 24 months with interest rates increasing at unprecedented levels. I just cannot believe how much, how fast, and for how long. I just couldn't have imagined that. Completely wrong. So clearly I don't know what I'm talking about. That being said, I do expect we're going to see interest rates come down dramatically in 2024. And most certainly, I said the dangerous word, most certainly by 2025, they'll be a fraction of where they are today. If true, the consumers who today literally can't finance the purchase of a vehicle, they simply can't afford because the interest rates are too high, lender says no money for you, can't afford to repay it. Plus the consumers who are concerned because interest rates are high and or they've taken on a new mortgage and or are just concerned overall that everything costs more, everything's expensive, I'm concerned. The consumers who intended on purchasing an electric vehicle in the next 12, 24 months, but have delayed that purchase as interest rates come down, are likely to go, I can afford that now, or it doesn't feel so tight. I'm not clenching so much thinking about this large financial decision. I might follow through with that purchase I already intended. If that's the case, it's entirely possible that rather than Tesla being forced to cut prices to sell through production, the opposite may once again become true, at least over the short term. In case you missed it, with Tesla's most recent quarterly delivery information, in Q3 2023, the preceding quarter, the number of vehicles that Tesla delivered that were leased, e.g. financed, depending on whether we're talking about 3 and Y or S and X, were between 2 and 3 times as many as in Q4. Clearly, interest rates are having a massive impact on consumers' willingness to purchase a vehicle. If from one quarter to the next, the number of people financing a purchase of a vehicle is half as many or a third as many, What happens when interest rates reverse? Good question. I definitely don't know the answer. Moving on.
The storyline that we're leading on at Bloomberg is that Tesla's lost its crown to BYD. BYD, the sort of biggest standalone seller of battery electric vehicles. And we knew that was coming. Does it matter if Tesla is eclipsed by BYD, which is kind of predominantly focused on the domestic Chinese market?
It doesn't necessarily matter per se, in the sense that there is room for multiple players. And if we just break apart the markets, yes, BYD eclipsed Tesla this year. Within battery electric vehicles, Tesla still beat BYD. Tesla was at 1.8 million. I believe BYD on battery electrics was 1.6 million, something along those lines, with the remainder being plug-in hybrid vehicles.
Yes, this is true. The BYD beating Tesla narrative is specifically relating to the final quarter of the year, in which BYD, as you can see on screen now, delivered 526,000 pure electric vehicles. Tesla at 485,000. Great accomplishment from BYD. They're doing well, keeping in mind the average selling price on a BYD vehicle at this point is much lower than a Tesla. As a result, BYD is not putting much money in the bank versus Tesla, who still are putting billions and billions and billions in the bank. But as I mentioned, since roughly 10% of all vehicles sold this year were electric, and 10 years from now, 100% will be, it's a very large growing pie, so it doesn't really matter who's selling the most vehicles. But it is an excellent accomplishment from BYD. Like I said, however, the average selling price is a fair bit lower, so you would expect that they're going to do a lot more volume until that next generation Tesla vehicle starts scaling up and deliveries begin. And congratulations to Rivian here, but as we can see, they got a long way to go to reach the levels of Tesla and BYD, but hey, at least they are making progress.
If you look at it on a regional basis, that's where the dynamics really vary, because in the US, Tesla is still the dominant EV name. In Europe, Tesla is still a top 3 or so player in the BEV market. China, Tesla is still, top 2 or 3. It's BYD that's really taken the crown. And it's China where we saw a lot of BYD sales accelerate. The other story that we saw emerging in 2023 was the rise of Chinese exports to Europe and to other markets.
And spoiler alert, this is just the beginning. There's going to be an utter invasion of well-priced, quite decent, but probably not quite Tesla level Chinese EVs flooding, in particular, into Europe, Australia, other parts of the Asia-Pacific region, and eventually the United States as well. As I've said, and will continue to say, until it plays out or otherwise, a decade from now, the company selling the most vehicles on Earth will be Tesla, and second through 10th place will almost exclusively be Chinese EV makers. Rest in peace Volkswagen, rest in peace Toyota, rest in peace Ford, rest in peace Government Motors.
So yes, there's more competition from Tesla from BYD, but there is still room for Tesla to grow. It's just a question of, in the markets where Tesla's serving, where is the demand for that?
Yeah, and spin us then into 2024 when we're thinking of a BYD getting into Hungary and producing there, when we're thinking of two very different price points ultimately remain on top for Tesla in terms of profits and revenue because they make more expensive cars. Will Tesla ever want to go lower to be able to serve and get in on that highly competitive state that there is in China, or should it be staying in its lane?
I'm pretty sure she knows the answer. I'm pretty sure they just want the analyst to talk about the next gen vehicle. So now's his opportunity, but obviously this is going to happen. And just keep in mind, folks, it may take a while before Tesla's inflation-adjusted next-gen vehicle is $25,000 as a starting point, but it won't end there. My best guess is that a vehicle that Tesla could be selling for $25,000 mid this decade, by the end of this decade, give or take, they could be selling the same vehicle because they'll have driven costs lower for about $17,500, maybe $18,000. So it will take time, but eventually you'll be able to buy a compelling Tesla vehicle for well under $20,000. Keywords compelling. It's going to be feature rich relative to many of the other vehicles in the market for a comparable price. But if cost is the only thing that matters, there are likely to be vehicles meaningfully cheaper for consumers to purchase with less features, less safety and so on than a Tesla vehicle indefinitely. In particular, in regions of the world where safety standards aren't quite so stringent. Remember, Tesla will not make unsafe vehicles, period. Other companies certainly will. It's an opportunity, and they know they won't be competing with Tesla.
Well, that's ultimately the goal for Tesla, right? That was something that they outlined at their investor day last March, the path to mega scale, right? 2024 from a volume perspective for Tesla we're at 2 million units. That's below consensus of 2.2 million. So it is some growth. It's low double-digit growth versus 2023, but it is below, the long-term growth curve Tesla has laid out. And that's really because there's not much in the way of new incremental product for Tesla in 2024. Yes, there's Cybertruck, but we think that's niche. It's really Model 3 and Y, which are somewhat dated models. And so really the story for Tesla on volume growth going forward is going to be Model 2. Whenever that is released, we have that as, sometime in 2025, where they really go down to that lower price point. But there's a ways to go to get to that lower price point. They have to drive out a lot of cost to get there.
Let's just go back to the Cybertruck, because that was something that I'm sure frustrated you and many an analyst investor. Is they didn't strip out, give us the intricacies of how many they actually sold. Was it 500 on the low end? Was it 5,000 on the high end? Where do you think the Cybertruck is landing? And does it really matter if it's just getting people in to have a look at the other cars?
Yeah, the comments here, Tesla reporting their deliveries for the quarter, combining 3 and Y, and now other models, including the S, X, and the Cybertruck. Not surprised, I kind of saw this coming. My best guess is for the entire quarter, Tesla probably produced, not even delivered, but produced somewhere between 69 and 420 Cybertrucks. Probably on the low end of that estimate. Now, I don't know the numbers, but this is the nature of ramping up any product, especially with so much new technology. It's going to be extremely slow, like wading through molasses. Then suddenly out of nowhere, when things start humming along, volumes start to increase. 500 a month, 1,000, 3,000, 8,000, 10,000. 12,000, 20,000 a month, and so on. What will be interesting is when we see a meaningful increase quarter over quarter in the other vehicles delivered numbers. Because at this point in time, Cybertruck contributing so little that it doesn't move the needle. That's likely to remain the case for another quarter or two at least, but we will eventually start to see that number tick up. And suddenly, that's weird. These other vehicles are now selling 50% more than they ever have in a prior quarter. Now it's 100% more. Interesting. I won't be surprised, by the way, if at some point, once Cybertruck has reached meaningful volume, that Tesla separates it out as its own item. But before then, to do so would be asking for trouble. That's the nature of ramping up a new product with a lot of technology. Can you imagine the headlines? Cybertruck disaster. Tesla produces 312 Cybertrucks in the entire quarter. They'll never get through their reservation backlog. It's the end of the world. So I can understand this.
It was probably a small set of volumes. We modeled in something like 200 units, possible. It was below that number. Look, I think Tesla has been clear that there are a number of production challenges along the way that need to be met with Cybertruck. And so that's why to us, yes, Cybertruck is a different model for them, and it does help give some model diversification, which they've needed. That being said, we would set our expectations accordingly on Cybertruck. We're assuming that you're not going to get more than 20,000 units in 2024 because it is such a slow ramp. There are likely some questions as well on demand.
What the fuck? Now, look, I understand the slow ramp part, although 20,000 really does seem low. But again, you never know. I do expect that roughly at the end of 2024, Tesla's annualized rate of production of Cybertrucks probably going to be somewhere on the order of 100, 125,000 per year, annualized. Something like that. Again, totally pulling it out of my ass. Best I can do, though. But did he just suggest that there were questions around demand for Cybertruck? What the oh my god, dude. I've said before, the autistic savants have reverse engineered the reservation tracker. We already knew there was over 2 million reservations. Since that point in time, Franz von Holzhausen, who designed the Cybertruck himself, is on the record to Jay Leno, disclosing the fact that, yes, there are over 2 million reservations. There are also a few breadcrumbs floating around. Elon Musk recently liking a post on X that was speculating about the number of Cybertruck reservations coming in since the unveil and first deliveries. If one is to question demand around Cybertruck, I question their cognitive faculties.
We think that it will draw on some consumers who want more of a lifestyle type vehicle, but we don't see Cybertruck really penetrating that core large pickup market, which is used for work purposes and commercial purposes.
LOL. I've covered this before. It's going to take time, but Cybertruck will become the work truck of choice for people throughout the United States and eventually globally. It will take time. But remember, just because it looks different doesn't mean it can't do the things that people who need a truck to do truck things need a truck to do. Cybertruck is extremely functional and utilitarian, despite the fact that it looks weird.
Dan, I want to go back to the demand question and zoom out. You can apply it to the legacy auto names, Ford and GM. You can bring in Rivian you want, but there is certainly a question now about the wave of first or early adopters being gone and how you just go after the everyday household. Tesla has used price cuts as its lever. The federal tax credit in this country is clearly a big factor. How do you model demand for this year?
I tell you what, man. I'd love somebody to get an AI. I mean, it'd be quite the task. But if we could run through every transcript of every discussion regarding electric vehicles, period, especially Tesla, and then map how frequently the word demand appears, I suspect that as EV sales have increased exponentially, there's also been an exponential increase in people questioning how much demand there is.
Volume for the EV market will increase. Even for the legacy players where there are questions on demand and where clearly they are slowing the pace of volume, there is still going to be growth. From a subsidy standpoint in the U.S., one key step forward is that the $7,500 credit will now be made on a point of sale basis, meaning you get it immediately when you purchase the vehicle as opposed to when you're filing your taxes. So that can help. That being said, there are some vehicles losing eligibility. And as you note, there is clearly a question about going from the early adopters to the early majority, where now you have to deal with the questions of range anxiety and charging availability. And so these are all things that need to be addressed. So I think that there is clearly still path forward for EV volumes to be increasing in 2024. It's just that the pace of growth is slowing. The other piece of this, and you alluded to this on the point of the price cuts, Tesla can cut its price because its cost structure allows it to do so. For the legacy automakers, they've struggled with EVs on the cost front, and there's only so much that they can cut on price because the costs are what they are.
Dude, you're spitting some facts here. We know Tesla prints an insane amount of money. They have huge pricing power, more than any other company selling electric vehicles. And as we know, excluding companies within China, no one's making any money selling electric vehicles other than Tesla. I think this is the core reason we've heard companies like Government Motors and Ford recently scaling back their EV plans. Ford literally halving their F-150 Lightning production numbers for this year. Why would you do that? The only reason you would do that is if you've done the math and realized you're going to go bankrupt almost immediately trying to compete with Tesla on cost when you don't have the same cost advantages and have decided, let's just go bankrupt slowly rather than rapidly. Here's a prediction to wrap this one up. Over the next 2-3 years, we're going to see a lot of companies currently producing electric vehicles, including startups and legacy automotive manufacturers, suck in their final breaths before filing for bankruptcy. And as this happens, Tesla is going to continue to pull further and further into their already unassailable lead. Want more content? Early access? Bunch of perks? Click the links in the pinned comment. AG1 has given me a massive, meaningful boost in energy, allowing me to do a lot more every day, including using my brain more and using my body more. I highly recommend you guys and girls check it out. It's an excellent way to fill in nutritional gaps. It's got 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, and whole food source nutrients, plus prebiotics and probiotics and digestive enzymes and adaptogens to help you deal with stress. Plus, if you click the link in the pinned comment or head to drinkag1.com/SMR, you can get yourself a 1-year free supply of vitamin D3 and K2. But don't take my word for it. Here's what some of you guys and girls have to say. AG1 has changed my life. I was, as you described, treating myself like a circus, ate like trash, rarely exercised, used alcohol as a stress crutch, cannabis also. AG1 is what gave me the kick in the ass, got me back to the gym, motivated me to do more for myself, family, my business, etc. Keep doing what you do. Now, I know there's some skeptics, the same kind of people who think Elon Musk is a fraud, reading this going, what do you thought? There's no way that's possible, bro. It must be a placebo effect. Believe it or not, this is a recurring theme. If you give your body everything it needs to feel and perform its best, including having a lot more energy, you'll need ways to use that energy. For me personally, that includes more exercise, moving my body more social activity, and more cognitively demanding tasks, including producing a ton of exclusive content over on Twitter and on Patreon, plus my daily YouTube uploads. The proof's in the pudding. On to another testimonial from a viewer of this channel. SMR, you asked me to provide feedback on AG1. Here it is. It has helped with mental acuity, stamina, and intestinal waste management. Can't read between the lines. It certainly helps with regularity and digestion. That's what the digestive enzymes are for. It has also dramatically reduced my cravings for sugar. You guys need to stop eating sugar. It's fucking poison. I'm 50, 5'9", and overweight, aka a fat motherfucker. I think that's a technical term for overweight, isn't it? Is it fat motherfucker or obese? I can't remember. I average 100 hours a week in the West Texas oil fields as a safety supervisor. Jesus Christ, dude. No wonder you're struggling to keep your weight under control. 100 hours a week. Brutal. It has helped me lose weight. It is not an appetite suppressant. It can help fat people suppress cravings, and motivation to be healthier is critical for changing your diet. Love you, brother. Again, this is a great point. It's something people really don't seem to grasp. If you have more energy, everything becomes easier. It's like turning on easy mode for life. A few years ago, before I was taking AG1, my health was trash. I was struggling to get through the day, had afternoon fatigue. The last thing I wanted to do was either use my brain or move my body. Didn't have the energy. Now, my biggest struggle every day is figuring out ways to use that energy. I'm exercising way more, doing a lot more with my friends and family, and of course, my work output has increased substantially. And you can fact check me. Check out the average length of my videos I was posting to YouTube 3 years ago. Need I say more? And one final testimonial. Love this one. Okay, here's the deal for me with this AG1 shit. I'm 41 years old and not the type to eat, drink, smoke, or sleep healthy, so I was skeptical. That being said, here's what I experienced. Day 1, meh. Day 2, afternoon fatigue was about 45 minutes late. Day 3, 0 afternoon fatigue. Day 4, 0 afternoon fatigue plus extra energy. Day 5, again, 0 afternoon fatigue plus energy, wondering, what the fuck, really? See, this is the thing, right? The results for many people are just almost too good to be true. This is the same experience I had. My afternoon fatigue just vanished out of nowhere. I'm like, wait, what the fuck? Why am I not tired in the afternoons anymore? Surely, it's not that AG1 shit, is it? Turns out it was. Day 6 and 7, same thing. Day 8, same thing. Plus, I had the want to get things done around the house that I normally would slack off and not get done. Again, the point, extra energy, you'll need to use it, you'll find ways to use it. Day 9, 10, and 11, and today is day 12. I fucking love it. So however you managed to get me to buy it, I'm so glad you did. Thank you so much, SMR. It really changed me so far. Guys, this shit really works. Just try it. By the way, this is the reason I continue to relentlessly promote AG1. A lot of people get real fucking mad in the comments. Oh my God, snake oil salmon's sold out. Oh my God, he's a scammer. This is fraud. But constantly, I'm pretty sure everyone making these comments is also currently short Tesla stock. I'm not particularly concerned about people having a negative perception, those folks suffering from small brain syndrome, still living in my bum's basement syndrome, etc., writing mean comments, claiming AG1's a scam or it doesn't work. I mean, bro, when I get feedback like this is what keeps me going. Just try this stuff for a month, and if you don't get these results, get your money back. See, it's a literal no-brainer. It's an IQ test at this point in time. Testimonial after testimonial after testimonial like this. Get your money back if it doesn't work. Just try it for a month, and if it doesn't work, get your money back. Today's the day. It's finally time. Be like this guy who was a massive skeptic, but finally, after 1,000 promotions in a row, caved in, tried AG1, and has results like this. Head to drinkag1.com/SMR or click the link at the pinned comment, and please, let me know how you're feeling in a few weeks' time. Now, if you'll excuse me, time to put my extra energy to good use. I'll be recording some more exclusive content for Patreon and my Twitter subscribers. So click the links at the pinned comment. See you over on Twitter and or Patreon, and don't forget to grab your AG1. Love ya.